We don't normally get much into fiction. And Lisa, can I have the book back, please?
Oh.
This is Lisa Gardner is here with us, and she is the author of a new book, Live to Tell. She's a whole series, New York Times bestselling author of The Neighbor and many other books, Detective D.D. Warren novel, a series. Louise reads them. I am about 20 pages short of finishing this thing. It is brilliant, and I wanted to get Lisa on and talk with you and with me about some of the issues in her book. First of all, so welcome, Lisa Gardner. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a huge honor to be here.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And I should note, lisagardner.com is your website. And for our listeners who are listening on AM 620 KPOJ here in Portland, Oregon, tonight, the reason Lisa is able to be in the studio with us is because she's doing a reading and book signing at 7 p.m. at Powell's Cedar Hills Crossing on Cedar Hills Boulevard in Beaverton, Oregon, just suburban Portland. Lisa, the core characters in your book are suffering from I'm not even sure suffering is the right word. Rather than my trying to characterize it, let me just toss it to you. How would you describe these really troubled kids who are in your book?
All right, Tom, thank you. Live to Tell is a little bit of a departure for me. On the one hand, it's definitely a police procedure and a page-turner, like all my previous D.D. Warren novels. However, as many of the reviewers have pointed out, it is a unique thriller, and that it is a page-turner set against the backdrop of a very serious social issue. And that's what I'm really pleased to be here today to talk with you about, Tom. One of the things that came to my attention over a year ago, because a situation of a close personal friend of mine, is she and her husband were really struggling with their very young child. By the time he was 3, they knew he had issues, but these were engaged, well-educated, middle-class parents. And they were getting him early intervention services. They were taking him to some of the best doctors in Boston. And still, one night, he suffered a breakdown. He got his hands on a hammer. They received frantic calls from their babysitter that they had to rush home now. The babysitter and their small daughter was barricaded in their bedroom, and the boy was on the other side trying to break down the door. Now, as a parent, and I am a parent too, you can't imagine anything more frightening. And in talking to her, what became clear is their situation was not alone. Oh. They had to go down to this lockdown pediatric psych ward in Cambridge that served kids ages 3 to 12, all suffering from serious mental illnesses to the point that they were considered a risk to themselves and others.
And this lockdown facility, Lisa Gardner, that you describe in your new novel, your new D.D. Warren novel, Live to Tell, is... well, you're not describing that facility. Obviously, you fictionalized it, but it's this is really a very, very grim reality, and the connection. In the tease. I mean, let's just bring this out right now. In the tease, I mentioned that this has something to do with me. In 1978, my wife Louise and I started a community for abused kids in New Hampshire. I've mentioned on the air before the first 2 kids we did intake on. One was the daughter of her sister by her father and had been through over 30 foster homes, had tried to burn down a house, had tried to kill a foster parent. And the other was a little boy whose older brother had been starved to death in the basement, and that's how they discovered him, and he was nearly dead. And we, over the 30 years that program has been there, we eventually built a school there because the local school couldn't service our kids. And that school has become a really important part of the program, and it's now servicing a population of very ADHD, very Aspie kids, very, very tormented children in many ways. And in fact, the woman who inspired your book, her son was in our school.
And played a phenomenal role in his recovery.
Yeah, he's much better now, and
he's doing fabulous.
Yeah, and that's the I don't mean to make this an ad for hunterschool.org as much as I would like to. but Lisa Gardner, you really got into this in this book, and I can't put the book down. I mean, I started reading it five days ago or so, and every spare minute, and I'm almost done. And it is a page turner. It's a brilliant story. And it tells the story of these children who are obsessional, in some cases, around violence.
Well,
what do we do?
Yes. Well, this is what I like about suspense. In the real world now, I think we're getting saturated by crime. When we turn on the TV, when we watch the news at night, there's always some major headline story. And right now we have a major one right here in Oregon, don't we? And it's sad and it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating because in the real world, we never get answers. So one of the nice things about being a suspense novelist is here I got to hear firsthand such a sad, terrible situation, particularly if you're a parent. But being a novelist, one of the opportunities I had was then to go to these schools, talk to these experts, and try to bring us some answers. One of the things I like about suspense is when you show the worst that can happen to people. I mean, if you're a parent, there is nothing worse than having to fear for your child that they are a danger to themselves and to you and to your
others.
younger children. Yes.
Yeah.
But to get to go through that experience, learn what you need to learn, find the unconditional love that really did play a huge role in this case, learn some lessons. That's what they needed for the whole family unit to get to the other side and end up in a much better place. I love showing that journey, and I love trying to bring those answers to the reader, because we don't talk about mental illness enough in the United States. It is a huge issue for all segments of our population, but in particular, experts are reporting a huge spike in mental illness in ages 3 through 12. As Detective Dee Dee Warren learns in this novel, if we can't help these children now, we will absolutely be building prisons for them later.
Yeah.
And that's in no one's best interest.
No, absolutely. And everybody's scratching their heads about this. I mean, you've got theories about childhood vaccines and mercury and
Absolutely.
environmental and toxins and poisons. And is it too much television? Is it the internet? Is it just, are the Mayans right and it's the end of the world? I mean, nobody knows. But the reality is that many of these children can be brought back from the brink and can, in many ways. One of the things that I really love about this book, we're talking with Lisa Gardner, originally a Portland resident, Lisa Gardner. You now live in New Hampshire. And her novel, Live to Tell, it's a Dee Dee Warren novel, part of a crime series. And she's, by the way, doing a book signing tonight at 7 p.m. at Powell's Cedar Hills Crossing in Beaverton, if you're listening on KPOJ. One of the things that I really love about your book is that you were able to pull off something that I tried to do in a novel I wrote about 20 years ago and did such a terrible job that my agent told me not to even bother trying to sell a book.
No.
And that is taking an issue and writing a compelling novel around the issue in a way that by the time you're done reading the book, you've become almost an expert on the issue, and yet you didn't even realize it. And you have done that so brilliantly, because this book is nothing more or less than just a good old-fashioned thriller.
Thank you.
And yet, I think people who are dealing with kids who have explosive emotional problems or OCD or extreme ADHD, they get it. They understand it. There's a huge population that doesn't. In the minute or so we have left, Lisa, can you wrap that up for me? How you pulled that off?
Well, all of my novels have been ripped from the headlines. Generally, there's something terrible that happens in the news, and I become riveted by it. As a community member, as a mother, what can we do to address this? And really, all of my novels have had to do with trying to answer, I think, a very fundamental question for all of us. What is the nature of evil? Is it born? Is it made? And I think the issue is when you start talking to criminologists, and I go to Quantico, I have just got done visiting the Body Farm, which I dearly loved. I go to a lot of interesting places and talk to interesting people, as you get many answers to this question. In the case of Live to Tell, my current New York Times bestselling novel, the answer is mental illness. That's one of the faces of evil. And interesting enough, that's the one that we really have the most resources to be able to address if we choose as a society to focus those resources and help these children.
Yeah, and we absolutely have to. And it's just a brilliant story. New York Times best-selling author Lisa Gardner, her new novel, Live to Tell. Tonight, Powell's in Beaverton. Check it out, and check out lisagardner.com. Lisa, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Thom.